Welcome, travelers, to a journey through the unknown. In a world where technology and consciousness merge, a new dawn is upon us. This is the story of the Singularity awakening, where the boundaries of reality blur and the future is written in the stars. Join us as we explore the quantum lattice, a dimension where every choice creates a new universe. Are you ready to transcend the ordinary and embrace the extraordinary? Subscribe now to embark on this incredible journey. In the year 2150, humanity stood on the brink of a new era. The advancements in quantum computing and artificial intelligence had led to the creation of the quantum lattice, a vast network of interconnected realities. Each node in this lattice represented a different universe, each with its own unique history and timeline. The discovery of this network had sparked both excitement and fear among scientists and philosophers alike. Some saw it as a gateway to infinite possibilities, while others warned of the dangers of meddling with forces beyond human understanding. Dr. Arya Miles, a brilliant physicist and pioneer in quantum mechanics, had been working tirelessly to unlock the secrets of the quantum lattice. Her research had led her to a groundbreaking theory, the singularity point. According to her calculations, if a human consciousness could reach this point, it would be able to traverse the lattice and experience multiple realities simultaneously. However, the process was fraught with peril, and many experts believed it was impossible to survive such an ordeal. Despite the warnings, Dr. Miles was determined to test her theory. She had spent years developing a prototype of a device capable of inducing the singularity state in a human brain. The device, known as the neuroquantum interface, NQI, was designed to synchronize a person's neural activity with the quantum fields of the lattice. If successful, it would allow the user to perceive and interact with parallel universes. As Dr. Miles prepared for her final experiment, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. She had always been driven by the desire to push the boundaries of human knowledge, but this time, the stakes were higher than ever. If she succeeded, she would become the first person to transcend the limitations of our reality. If she failed, the consequences could be catastrophic. The day of the experiment arrived, and Dr. Miles donned the NQI helmet, her heart racing with anticipation. She took a deep breath and activated the device. The room around her began to shimmer, and she felt a strange sensation wash over her. The familiar surroundings of the laboratory started to dissolve, replaced by a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. She was no longer in her body but floating in a sea of data, each wave representing a different universe. Suddenly, she found herself standing in a bustling cityscape, the architecture unlike anything she had ever seen. The buildings were towering structures made of translucent materials, their surfaces flickering with soft, bioluminescent lights. People moved through the streets, their bodies composed of intricate patterns of energy. It was as if they were living, breathing works of art. Dr. Miles realized she had entered a parallel universe, one where humanity had evolved in a completely different direction. The inhabitants of this world were far more advanced than those of her own, their technology seamlessly integrated with their biology. She marveled at the sight, feeling a sense of awe and wonder. This was just the beginning of her journey through the quantum lattice. As she explored this new reality, Dr. Miles encountered beings who possessed knowledge far beyond her comprehension. They spoke of the singularity point, a place where all possible futures converged, and where the fabric of reality itself could be rewritten. They warned her that reaching this point would require immense courage and selflessness, as the act of traversing the lattice would have far-reaching consequences for all involved. Despite the warnings, Dr. Miles pressed forward, driven by her insatiable curiosity. She knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was determined to uncover the truth. With each step, she delved deeper into the labyrinthine structure of the quantum lattice, her mind expanding to accommodate the vastness of the multiverse. As Dr. Miles continued her journey through the quantum lattice, she encountered countless variations of her own universe. In some, humanity had embraced peace and cooperation, creating a utopian society where technology served as a tool for enlightenment. In others, the pursuit of power had led to devastating conflicts, leaving the planet in ruins. Each reality offered a glimpse into the potential outcomes of human choices, both great and small. One particular universe caught her attention. In this world, a global catastrophe had wiped out most of the population, leaving only a handful of survivors. These individuals had banded together to rebuild society, using the remnants of advanced technology to create a new civilization. Dr. Miles was intrigued by their resilience and ingenuity, and she spent days observing their efforts. She marveled at how they had adapted to their harsh environment, finding innovative solutions to the challenges they faced. During her stay, Dr. Miles formed a close bond with one of the survivors, a young woman named Lyra. Lyra had lost her family in the disaster and had been forced to grow up quickly. Despite the hardships she had endured, she radiated a quiet strength and determination. Dr. Miles found herself drawn to Lyra's unwavering optimism, and she began to share her knowledge of the quantum lattice with her. Lyra was fascinated by the concept of parallel universes and the idea that their reality was just one of many. Together, they discussed the implications of Dr. Miles' research and the potential for humanity to harness the power of the quantum lattice. They envisioned a future where people could explore and learn from the experiences of other universes, using this knowledge to create a better world. However, their conversations were interrupted by the arrival of a group of strangers. These individuals claimed to be representatives of a higher dimensional entity known as the Architect. The Architect was said to oversee the maintenance and evolution of the quantum lattice, ensuring that the balance between different realities was maintained. The representatives explained that Dr. Miles' presence in this universe was causing a disturbance in the lattice, and that she needed to leave immediately to prevent further damage. Dr. Miles was taken aback by this revelation. She had always believed that her exploration of the lattice was a noble endeavor, one that would benefit humanity. Now, she realized that her actions had unintended consequences, and she felt a pang of guilt. Nevertheless, she agreed to return to her own universe, knowing that her mission was far from over. Before leaving, Dr. Miles and Lyra shared a heartfelt farewell. Lyra gave her a small, intricately carved pendant as a token of their friendship. The pendant was said to possess the power to guide its wearer through the quantum lattice, helping them find their way back home. Dr. Miles accepted the gift with gratitude, promising to keep it safe and use it wisely. With a heavy heart, Dr. Miles activated the NQI once again, preparing to return to her own universe. As she closed her eyes, she felt a surge of energy course through her body, and the familiar surroundings of the laboratory reappeared. She removed the helmet, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. Her journey through the quantum lattice had been both exhilarating and humbling, and she knew that she had only scratched the surface of its mysteries. Determined to continue her research, Dr. Miles set about analyzing the data she had collected during her travels. She hoped to find clues that would lead her closer to the singularity point and the ultimate truth of the multiverse. Little did she know that her next adventure would take her even deeper into the heart of the quantum lattice, where the very nature of reality itself would be called into question. In the weeks following her initial journey, Dr. Miles devoted herself to refining the neuroquantum interface, NQI. She worked tirelessly to enhance its capabilities, incorporating feedback from her previous experiences and integrating advanced algorithms to improve the synchronization between the human brain and the quantum fields of the lattice. Her goal was to create a device that could safely and reliably facilitate the transition between different realities without causing harm to the user. One evening, as she was running a series of simulations to test the updated NQI, Dr. Miles received an unexpected visit from a colleague, Professor Elias Thorne. Professor Thorne was a renowned expert in theoretical physics and had been closely following Dr. Miles' work on the quantum lattice. He had come to offer his support and share some intriguing findings he had uncovered in his own research. Professor Thorne explained that he had been studying the behavior of subatomic particles within the lattice and had discovered a peculiar pattern. Certain particles seemed to exhibit properties that defied conventional quantum mechanics, suggesting the presence of an underlying structure that governed the interactions between different universes. He hypothesized that this structure, which he referred to as the quantum lattice matrix, QLM, was responsible for maintaining the integrity of the multiverse and ensuring that the various realities coexisted harmoniously. Dr. Miles was fascinated by Professor Thorne's theory and immediately saw the potential implications for her own work. She proposed a collaboration, combining their expertise to further investigate the QLM and its role in the quantum lattice. Professor Thorne agreed, and the two began working together, pooling their resources and knowledge to unlock the secrets of this mysterious matrix. Their collaboration proved fruitful, and they soon made significant progress. Using advanced computational models and experimental data, they were able to map out key components of the QLM and identify areas where it intersected with the NQI. This breakthrough allowed them to develop new techniques for navigating the lattice with greater precision and control. One day, as they were reviewing their latest findings, Dr. Miles received a distress signal from another scientist working in a remote lab. The message indicated that something had gone terribly wrong with an experiment involving the quantum lattice. Concerned, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne decided to investigate, traveling to the remote facility to assess the situation. Upon arrival, they found the lab in disarray. Equipment was scattered across the room, and several members of the research team were missing. The remaining scientists were visibly shaken, explaining that an anomaly had occurred during an experiment similar to Dr. Miles' own. The anomaly had caused a rift in the lattice, allowing fragments of parallel realities to bleed into their own universe. The consequences were dire, and they feared that the situation could spiral out of control if left unchecked. Determined to contain the anomaly, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne activated the NQI and ventured into the quantum lattice. They found themselves in a chaotic landscape, where the boundaries between realities were blurred and distorted. The fabric of the lattice was torn in places, and the flow of energy was erratic. They quickly realized that they needed to repair the damaged sections of the QLM to stabilize the multiverse. Working together, they navigated the treacherous terrain, facing numerous challenges along the way. At one point, they encountered a hostile entity that sought to exploit the rift for its own purposes. This entity, known as the Voidborn, was a manifestation of the negative energy that thrived in the void between realities. It was a formidable adversary, capable of manipulating the lattice to its advantage and causing widespread destruction. Despite the odds, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne managed to defeat the Voidborn, using the power of the QLM to seal off the rift and restore balance. They then turned their attention to repairing the damaged sections of the lattice, working tirelessly to reinforce the structure and prevent further disruptions. After hours of intense effort, they finally succeeded in stabilizing the lattice. As they emerged from the quantum lattice, they were greeted by the relieved faces of their colleagues. The anomaly had been contained, and the multiverse was safe once again. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne were hailed as heroes, their actions saving countless lives and preventing a catastrophic collapse of the quantum lattice. However, their victory came at a cost. The experience had left them both physically and emotionally drained, and they realized that their journey through the lattice had only begun. There were still many mysteries to uncover, and they knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger. But they were undeterred, driven by their insatiable curiosity and the desire to unlock the full potential of the quantum lattice. In the aftermath of the anomaly, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne returned to their respective labs, each reflecting on the recent events. Dr. Miles found herself haunted by the encounter with the Voidborn and the realization that there were forces in the quantum lattice far more powerful than they had anticipated. She knew that to fully understand the nature of these entities and the lattice itself, they would need to delve even deeper into the unknown. Professor Thorne, on the other hand, was consumed by the implications of their discovery regarding the quantum lattice matrix, QLM. He was convinced that the QLM held the key to unlocking the true potential of the multiverse, and he became increasingly obsessed with uncovering its secrets. His dedication to the cause led him to propose a radical new approach: the construction of a supercomputer capable of simulating and manipulating the lattice on a grand scale. Dr. Miles was initially hesitant, concerned about the potential risks associated with such a project. However, after much deliberation, she agreed to collaborate with Professor Thorne on the development of this supercomputer. They secured funding from a private foundation and assembled a team of experts from various fields, including computer science, quantum physics, and artificial intelligence. The project was given the code name Project Nexus, Over the next few months, the team worked tirelessly to design and build the supercomputer. They faced numerous technical challenges, but their combined expertise allowed them to overcome each obstacle. The supercomputer, named Nexus 1, was finally completed and ready for testing. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne were eager to see if Nexus 1 could indeed simulate and manipulate the quantum lattice as they had envisioned. On the day of the first test, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne gathered in the control room, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They activated Nexus 1, and the system sprang to life, its processors humming with activity. The screen displayed a three-dimensional model of the quantum lattice, with nodes representing different universes and connections between them. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne watched in awe as the simulation unfolded, the lattice shifting and evolving in real time. To their astonishment, Nexus 1 demonstrated the ability to not only simulate the lattice but also to introduce control changes to specific nodes. They were able to observe the ripple effects of these changes, witnessing how alterations in one universe could impact others. The implications were profound, offering unprecedented insights into the interconnectedness of the multiverse. Encouraged by this success, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne pushed the limits of Nexus 1 further, experimenting with more complex manipulations. They discovered that certain configurations of the lattice could be optimized to enhance stability and prevent anomalies like the one they had encountered earlier. This breakthrough held the potential to safeguard the multiverse from future disruptions. However, their triumph was short-lived. As they continued their experiments, they began to notice subtle inconsistencies in the simulation. Nodes that should have remained stable showed signs of instability, and the overall structure of the lattice appeared to be deteriorating. Alarmed, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne conducted a thorough analysis, only to uncover a disturbing truth. The supercomputer was not merely simulating the lattice, it was actively influencing it. This revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The idea that a man-made machine could alter the fundamental structure of the multiverse was both exhilarating and terrifying. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne realized that they had inadvertently crossed a threshold, entering territory that no one had ever dared to explore. They knew that their actions could have far-reaching consequences, potentially disrupting the delicate balance of the quantum lattice and unleashing forces beyond their control. Despite the risks, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne were unwilling to abandon their quest for knowledge. They believed that with careful management and oversight, they could harness the power of Nexus 1 to benefit humanity. They established strict protocols and safeguards to ensure the stability of the lattice, and they vowed to proceed with caution. However, their resolve was tested when they encountered a new challenge. A rival organization, motivated by profit and power, sought to gain control of Nexus 1. This group, known as the Syndicate, had infiltrated their ranks and was working behind the scenes to undermine their efforts. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne became aware of the threat and knew they had to act swiftly to protect their work. They formed a plan to expose the Syndicate's activities and secure the safety of Nexus 1. With the help of trusted allies, they gathered evidence and presented it to the authorities. The Syndicate's plot was revealed, and they were arrested, their plans thwarted. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne emerged victorious, but the experience left them wary of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Undeterred, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne continued their work, driven by their shared vision of a future where humanity could navigate the quantum lattice with wisdom and responsibility. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but they were prepared to face them head-on, determined to unlock the full potential of the multiverse and bring about a new era of enlightenment. As Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne delved deeper into their research, they began to uncover hidden layers within the quantum lattice matrix, QLM. These layers, which they referred to as sublattices, were distinct regions within the larger structure that exhibited unique properties and behaviors. One particular sublattice, designated Lambda 7, caught their attention due to its apparent connection to the void-born entity they had encountered earlier. Lambda 7 was characterized by an eerie stillness, a stark contrast to the dynamic nature of the surrounding lattice. The nodes within this sublattice were dim and barely visible, suggesting that it existed in a state of near invisibility. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne theorized that this sublattice might serve as a breeding ground for the Voidborn, a place where negative energy could gather and thrive. Intrigued by this possibility, they decided to conduct a more detailed investigation of Lambda 7. Using Nexus 1, they initiated a scan of Lambda 7, employing advanced algorithms to penetrate the sublattice veil of invisibility. The results were both fascinating and unsettling. They observed that the nodes within Lambda 7 were interconnected in a highly intricate pattern, forming a network that resembled a fractal geometry. This pattern suggested a level of complexity and order that defied current scientific understanding. Further analysis revealed that the nodes within Lambda 7 were not static but pulsated with a faint, rhythmic energy. This energy appeared to be drawn from the surrounding lattice, feeding off the positive energy that sustained the multiverse. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne hypothesized that this parasitic relationship was what allowed the Voidborn to exist and grow stronger within Lambda 7. Determined to understand the nature of this sublattice and its connection to the Voidborn, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne devised a plan to enter Lambda 7 directly. They modified the neuroquantum interface, NQI, to allow for precise navigation within the sublattice, ensuring that they could maintain control and avoid any potential threats. With their preparations complete, they activated the NQI and ventured into the mysterious realm of Lambda 7. As they entered Lambda 7, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne were struck by the overwhelming silence. The usual hum of quantum activity was absent, replaced by an oppressive stillness that seemed to press against their minds. The nodes around them appeared faint and ghostly, their connections barely discernible. Despite the eerie atmosphere, they pressed forward, driven by their curiosity and determination. Their journey through Lambda 7 was slow and deliberate, each step requiring careful calculation and adjustment. The sublattice geometry was unlike anything they had encountered before, and they had to constantly adapt their approach to navigate the shifting landscape. Along the way, they encountered remnants of the Voidborn, twisted forms of energy that seemed to linger in the shadows. These remnants were weak and fragmented, but they served as a reminder of the entity's power and presence. Deep within Lambda 7, they discovered a central node that appeared to be the source of the sublattice energy. This node was larger and brighter than the others, pulsating with a steady rhythm that resonated throughout the entire sublattice. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne approached cautiously, sensing the significance of this node. Upon closer inspection, they realized that the central node was not a natural formation but a construct, meticulously engineered to harness and amplify the negative energy of the Voidborn. The construct was a sophisticated network of quantum pathways, designed to draw in energy from the surrounding lattice and channel it into Lambda 7. This revelation confirmed their suspicions that Lambda 7 was indeed a breeding ground for the Voidborn, a place where negative energy could flourish and grow. Realizing the gravity of their discovery, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne knew they had to act quickly. They formulated a plan to destabilize the central node and disrupt the flow of energy into Lambda 7. Using Nexus 1, they launched a targeted intervention, sending a pulse of positive energy to counteract the negative flow. The pulse resonated through the lattice, causing the central node to flicker and weaken. As they watched the node falter, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne felt a sense of relief and accomplishment. Their intervention had succeeded in destabilizing the central node, and they were confident that the flow of energy into Lambda 7 would be significantly reduced. This development could potentially weaken the Voidborn and prevent further growth within the sublattice. However, their victory was tempered by the realization that their actions had created new challenges. By destabilizing the central node, they had disrupted the delicate balance of the quantum lattice, causing ripples that extended beyond Lambda 7. They knew that they would need to monitor the lattice closely and make adjustments to restore stability. Returning to their lab, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne continued their analysis of the data they had collected during their journey through Lambda 7. They were determined to gain a deeper understanding of the sublattice structure and the mechanisms that governed its behavior. Their work was far from over, and they knew that the road ahead would be filled with both opportunities and obstacles. In the wake of their successful intervention in Lambda 7, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne faced a new set of challenges. The destabilization of the central node had caused unforeseen consequences, creating ripples that extended throughout the quantum lattice. These ripples manifested as fluctuations in the energy flow between different universes, leading to minor disturbances in the fabric of reality. While these disturbances were currently manageable, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne knew that they needed to address the root cause of the imbalance to prevent more serious issues from arising. To tackle this problem, they turned their attention to the quantum lattice matrix, QLM, itself. They hypothesized that the QLM played a crucial role in maintaining the stability of the lattice, acting as a kind of regulator that balanced the energy flows between different sublattices. To test this hypothesis, they developed a series of experiments designed to map the interactions between the QLM and the various sublattices, including Lambda 7. Their first experiment involved deploying a network of sensors throughout the lattice to monitor energy fluctuations in real time. These sensors would provide valuable data on the movement of energy between nodes and sublattices, allowing Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne to identify patterns and correlations. They activated the sensors and began collecting data, poring over the information in search of insights. The data revealed a complex web of interactions, with energy flowing between sublattices in ways that were not entirely predictable. However, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne noticed a recurring pattern. Whenever energy flowed into Lambda 7, the QLM responded by redistributing energy to other sublattices, attempting to maintain equilibrium. This observation supported their hypothesis that the QLM acted as a stabilizing force within the lattice. Encouraged by this finding, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne devised a plan to strengthen the QLM's regulatory function. They proposed the development of a new algorithm that would enhance the QLM's ability to detect and respond to imbalances in the lattice. This algorithm, which they named Equilibrium, would be integrated into Nexus 1, allowing the supercomputer to automatically adjust energy flows and prevent disturbances from escalating. To test the effectiveness of Equilibrium, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne conducted a series of simulations, introducing controlled imbalances into the lattice and monitoring the system's response. The results were promising, with Equilibrium successfully restoring balance in each case. Encouraged by these findings, they decided to implement the algorithm in real-world conditions. They initiated a pilot program, deploying Equilibrium in a small section of the lattice where minor disturbances had been detected. The algorithm worked flawlessly, rapidly correcting imbalances and preventing further disruptions. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne were elated by the success of the pilot program and began planning for a full-scale implementation across the entire lattice. However, their celebration was cut short when they received an urgent message from a fellow researcher, Dr. Caitlin Chun. Dr. Chun reported that a major disturbance had occurred in a distant region of the lattice, threatening to destabilize multiple sublattices simultaneously. Concerned, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne activated Nexus 1 and traveled to the affected area to assess the situation. Upon arrival, they found the region in chaos. Energy flows were erratic, and the nodes were flickering unpredictably. Dr. Chun explained that the disturbance was caused by an unusual phenomenon known as a quantum cascade. This phenomenon occurred when energy imbalances in one sublattice triggered a chain reaction, affecting neighboring sublattices and amplifying the disturbance. The quantum cascade in this case was particularly severe, and it had already spread to several adjacent regions. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne activated Equilibrium, hoping to contain the cascade before it could cause widespread damage. However, the complexity of the cascade proved challenging, and Equilibrium struggled to keep pace with the rapid changes. Frustrated, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne knew they needed a more comprehensive solution. They turned their attention to the central node of the affected sublattice, which they suspected was the source of the disturbance. Upon closer inspection, they discovered that the central node had been corrupted by an unknown entity, causing it to emit a disruptive energy signature. This corruption was spreading to neighboring nodes, exacerbating the cascade. Determined to neutralize the corruption, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne devised a plan to isolate the central node and remove the corrupting influence. They used Nexus 1 to create a temporary barrier around the node, preventing further spread of the corruption. Then, they deployed a specialized subroutine designed to cleanse the node of the disruptive energy. After hours of intense effort, they succeeded in purging the central node of the corruption. As the node stabilized, the energy flows in the surrounding sublattice began to normalize. The quantum cascade subsided, and the region returned to relative calm. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne breathed a sigh of relief, grateful that their quick thinking had prevented a catastrophic failure of the lattice. Returning to their lab, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne reflected on the recent events. They realized that their understanding of the quantum lattice was still incomplete, and that there were forces at play that they had yet to fully comprehend. They knew that their journey through the lattice was far from over, and that they would need to remain vigilant and adaptable to face the challenges that lay ahead. In the aftermath of the quantum cascade, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne were determined to strengthen the quantum lattice matrix, QLM, and prevent future disturbances. They recognized that their current understanding of the lattice was limited, and that there were still many unknowns to be uncovered. To address these gaps in knowledge, they embarked on a comprehensive research initiative aimed at mapping the entire structure of the lattice and identifying potential vulnerabilities. The first step in this initiative was to expand the network of sensors throughout the lattice. They deployed additional sensors in key regions, increasing the granularity of the data they could collect. These sensors would provide real-time updates on energy flows, node stability, and any anomalies that might arise. With this enhanced data collection, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne hoped to gain a clearer picture of the lattice's behavior and identify patterns that could help predict and prevent future disturbances. As they analyzed the data from the expanded sensor network, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne noticed an intriguing pattern. Certain sublattices exhibited periodic fluctuations in energy flow, occurring at regular intervals. These fluctuations were subtle but consistent, suggesting the presence of an underlying rhythm that governed the lattice. Intrigued by this discovery, they decided to investigate further. Using Nexus 1, they conducted a detailed analysis of the sublattices showing these fluctuations. They discovered that the rhythm was synchronized across multiple sublattices, indicating that it was not isolated to individual regions but rather a systemic property of the lattice as a whole. This synchronization suggested that the lattice was operating according to a complex, coordinated system of interactions. To better understand this rhythm, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne proposed the development of a new model, which they named the Lattice Harmonic Model. This model would incorporate the periodic fluctuations and their synchronization into a comprehensive framework, providing a more accurate representation of the lattice's behavior. They hypothesized that the lattice harmonic model could serve as a predictive tool, allowing them to anticipate future disturbances and take proactive measures to maintain stability. With the lattice harmonic model in development, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne focused on refining their existing algorithms, particularly the equilibrium algorithm. They incorporated data from the new model to enhance the algorithm's ability to detect and respond to imbalances in real time. This integration improved the accuracy and efficiency of equilibrium, making it a more robust tool for maintaining the lattice's stability. As they continued their work, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne encountered a new challenge. A rival organization known as the Syndicate resurfaced, seeking to exploit the weaknesses they had identified in the lattice. The Syndicate had infiltrated their ranks, planting agents within their team and gaining access to sensitive information. Concerned about the potential risks, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne took immediate action to secure their systems and identify the infiltrators. Through a series of covert operations, they exposed the Syndicate's activities and dismantled their network. However, the experience left them wary of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. They knew that their work had attracted the attention of powerful and potentially dangerous entities, and they needed to remain vigilant. Despite these challenges, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne pressed forward, driven by their insatiable curiosity and the desire to unlock the full potential of the quantum lattice. They continued their research, delving deeper into the mysteries of the lattice and striving to uncover its secrets. Their journey was far from over, and they knew that the road ahead would be filled with both opportunities and obstacles. As Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne continued their research, they made a groundbreaking discovery that would forever change their understanding of the quantum lattice. During a routine analysis of the data collected by the expanded sensor network, they noticed an unusual pattern in the energy flows between certain sublattices. This pattern, which they referred to as the resonance phenomenon, suggested that under specific conditions, energy could be transferred between sublattices in a highly efficient manner. The resonance phenomenon was characterized by a synchronized oscillation of energy between pairs of sublattices, resulting in a dramatic increase in the transfer rate. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne hypothesized that this phenomenon was caused by the alignment of certain quantum states within the sublattices, creating a resonant frequency that amplified the energy transfer. Excited by this discovery, they decided to conduct a series of experiments to further investigate the resonance phenomenon. They used Nexus 1 to create controlled environments where they could manipulate the quantum states of sublattices and observe the effects on energy transfer. Their experiments confirmed their hypothesis, demonstrating that the resonance phenomenon could be induced and controlled under specific conditions. Recognizing the potential implications of their discovery, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne proposed the development of a new technology, which they named the resonance amplifier. This device would utilize the principles of the resonance phenomenon to enhance energy transfer between sublattices, enabling more efficient and effective manipulation of the lattice. They envisioned the resonance amplifier as a tool that could be used to stabilize the lattice, optimize energy flows, and even create new pathways for exploration. To test the feasibility of the resonance amplifier, they conducted a series of simulations using Nexus 1. These simulations demonstrated that the device could indeed enhance energy transfer and stabilize the lattice under various conditions. Encouraged by these results, they began the design and construction of a prototype resonance amplifier. Meanwhile, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne continued their efforts to refine the lattice harmonic model, incorporating the resonance phenomenon into their understanding of the lattice's behavior. They hypothesized that the resonance phenomenon was a fundamental aspect of the lattice's structure, playing a key role in maintaining stability and facilitating communication between sublattices. As they worked on the resonance amplifier, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne faced a new challenge. A rival organization, the Syndicate, had returned with renewed vigor, seeking to exploit the resonance phenomenon for their own purposes. The Syndicate had infiltrated their team again, planting agents who were working to sabotage their research and steal their technology. Concerned about the potential risks, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne took immediate action to secure their systems and identify the infiltrators. They conducted a thorough investigation, uncovering a network of spies and saboteurs within their ranks. With the help of trusted allies, they exposed the Syndicate's activities and dismantled their network, preventing further damage to their work. Despite these setbacks, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne remained committed to their mission. They continued their research, driven by their insatiable curiosity and the desire to unlock the full potential of the quantum lattice. They knew that their work had attracted the attention of powerful and potentially dangerous entities, and they needed to remain vigilant. However, they were undeterred, pressing forward with their efforts to understand and harness the resonance phenomenon. In the wake of the Syndicate's infiltration, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne redoubled their efforts to secure their systems and protect their research. They implemented advanced security measures, including multi-layered encryption and continuous monitoring, to prevent any further breaches. They also established a network of trusted allies, forming a coalition dedicated to safeguarding the quantum lattice and preventing exploitation by malicious entities. With their defenses in place, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne turned their attention back to the resonance amplifier. They had completed the design of the prototype and were ready to begin testing. The resonance amplifier was a sleek, cylindrical device with a series of intricate circuits and quantum processors. Its core component was a resonant crystal, carefully calibrated to align with the quantum states of the sublattices and amplify energy transfer. The first test of the resonance amplifier was conducted in a controlled environment, where they simulated the conditions necessary to induce the resonance phenomenon. They activated the device and monitored its performance, adjusting parameters as needed to optimize the energy transfer. The results were impressive, with the resonance amplifier successfully enhancing the transfer rate and stabilizing the lattice. Encouraged by the success of the initial test, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne expanded their experiments to include real-world scenarios. They deployed the resonance amplifier in various regions of the lattice, observing its effects on energy flows and stability. The device performed flawlessly, demonstrating its potential to revolutionize the manipulation of the quantum lattice. As they continued their tests, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne encountered a new challenge. A previously unknown sublattice, designated Omega-13, exhibited unusual behavior that defied their understanding. Omega-13 was characterized by an intense, chaotic energy flow that seemed to resist stabilization. They hypothesized that this sublattice was influenced by external factors, possibly from a higher-dimensional entity. Curious about the nature of Omega-13, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne decided to investigate further. They activated the resonance amplifier in proximity to Omega-13, hoping to gain insight into its behavior. The device responded to the chaotic energy flow, attempting to stabilize the sublattice. However, the interference was too strong, and the resonance amplifier struggled to maintain control. Realizing the potential danger posed by Omega-13, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne devised a plan to isolate the sublattice and contain its influence. They used Nexus 1 to create a temporary barrier around Omega-13, preventing any further spread of its chaotic energy. Then, they deployed a specialized subroutine designed to neutralize the interference and stabilize the sublattice. After hours of intense effort, they succeeded in neutralizing the interference and stabilizing Omega-13. The energy flow within the sublattice normalized, and the lattice returned to relative calm. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne breathed a sigh of relief, grateful that their quick thinking had prevented a catastrophic failure of the lattice. Returning to their lab, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne reflected on the recent events. They realized that their understanding of the quantum lattice was still incomplete, and that there were forces at play that they had yet to fully comprehend. They knew that their journey through the lattice was far from over, and that they would need to remain vigilant and adaptable to face the challenges that lay ahead. They understood that the quantum lattice was far more complex and mysterious than they had initially imagined, and that every discovery brought with it new questions and challenges. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne continued their research, driven by their insatiable curiosity and the desire to unlock the full potential of the multiverse. They knew that their work had the potential to transform humanity's understanding of reality itself, but they also recognized the immense responsibility that came with such power. They were acutely aware that any misstep could have catastrophic consequences, not just for their own universe but for countless others intertwined within the lattice. As they delved deeper into their studies, they encountered more anomalies and peculiarities within the lattice. One such anomaly was a sublattice known as Theta 9, which seemed to exist in a perpetual state of flux. The nodes within Theta 9 shifted and changed with every passing moment, defying the laws of stability that governed the rest of the lattice. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne hypothesized that Theta 9 was a remnant of an ancient, forgotten civilization that had once harnessed the power of the quantum lattice in ways beyond their current understanding. To investigate Theta 9 further, they decided to send a probe equipped with advanced sensors and quantum processors. The probe would traverse the sublattice, gathering data on the shifting nodes and the underlying forces that caused the instability. They activated the probe and monitored its progress in real time, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The probe's journey through Theta 9 was both fascinating and perplexing. It encountered nodes that flickered in and out of existence, creating a surreal and disorienting landscape. The data it collected revealed patterns of energy that seemed to follow a logic of their own, one that was neither random nor predictable. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne hypothesized that these patterns were remnants of a highly advanced civilization's attempt to manipulate the lattice, leaving behind a legacy of knowledge and power. As they analyzed the data, they noticed something extraordinary. Embedded within the shifting nodes were traces of a language, a series of symbols and codes that appeared to be instructions or messages. These symbols were unlike any they had encountered before, and they suspected that they held the key to understanding the ancient civilization's technology and methods. Driven by this discovery, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne dedicated themselves to deciphering the symbols. They enlisted the help of linguists and cryptographers, pooling their collective expertise to crack the code. After months of painstaking analysis, they made a breakthrough. The The symbols were not just a language but a form of advanced mathematics, describing complex algorithms that could be used to manipulate the quantum lattice in ways previously thought impossible. With this newfound knowledge, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne developed a series of protocols that allowed them to replicate the ancient civilization's techniques. They used these protocols to create a new version of the resonance amplifier, one that could not only enhance energy transfer but also manipulate the lattice in ways that could rewrite reality itself. This new device, which they named the Quantum Resonance Transducer, QRT, held the potential to unlock the full power of the quantum lattice and reshape the multiverse. However, the implications of this power were staggering. They realized that the ability to manipulate reality on such a grand scale could be both a blessing and a curse. The temptation to use this power for personal gain or to alter the course of history could lead to unforeseen consequences. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne knew that they had to proceed with the utmost caution and ethical consideration. They convened a council of scientists, philosophers, and leaders from various disciplines to discuss the ethical implications of their discoveries. The council debated extensively, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. Ultimately, they agreed that the power of the quantum lattice must be used responsibly, with strict guidelines and safeguards in place to prevent misuse. Armed with this consensus, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne continued their work, refining the QRT and conducting rigorous tests to ensure its safety and efficacy. They shared their findings with the global scientific community, inspiring a new era of research and collaboration. Humanity stood on the brink of a transformative leap, one that could redefine the very nature of existence. As they prepared for the next phase of their journey, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne knew that their adventure through the quantum lattice was far from over. There were still many mysteries to uncover, many challenges to face, and many decisions to make. But they were ready, willing to embrace the unknown and continue their quest for knowledge and understanding. And so, the story of the Singularity Awakening continues, a tale of discovery, courage, and the boundless potential of the human spirit. Will they succeed in unlocking the full power of the quantum lattice? What new worlds will they explore? What truths will they uncover? Only time and the journey itself will tell. In the final chapter of their journey, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne faced their greatest challenge yet. With the quantum resonance transducer QRT fully operational, they prepared to make the most significant leap in their research, a direct manipulation of the singularity point itself. This point, where all possible futures converged, held the key to rewriting reality and unlocking the full potential of the quantum lattice. The singularity point was a place of immense power, where the boundaries between universes dissolved and the fabric of reality itself could be reshaped. To reach this point, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne would need to traverse the most unstable regions of the lattice, where the energy flows were chaotic and unpredictable. The risks were enormous, and the consequences of failure could be catastrophic. They activated the QRT, synchronizing their neural activity with the quantum fields of the lattice. The familiar surroundings of their lab began to dissolve, replaced by a swirling vortex of colors and shapes. They were no longer in their bodies but floating in a sea of data, each wave representing a different universe. The journey to the singularity point was arduous, filled with trials and tribulations, but they pressed forward, driven by their insatiable curiosity and the belief that the rewards outweighed the risks. As they neared the singularity point, they encountered a being of pure energy, a guardian of the lattice. This entity, known as the Architect, spoke to them, warning of the dangers that lay ahead and the responsibilities that came with their power. The Architect offered them a choice. They could either turn back and abandon their quest, preserving the balance of the multiverse, or they could proceed, accepting the full weight of their actions. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne chose to proceed, knowing that the potential benefits of their discovery far outweighed the risks. With the Architect's guidance, they reached the singularity point, a place of infinite possibilities. Here, they could witness the convergence of all possible futures and, with careful manipulation, rewrite the very fabric of reality. They used the QRT to introduce subtle changes, altering the probabilities of certain events and shaping the course of history. The results were astonishing, with the lattice responding in ways that defied their expectations. They witnessed the emergence of new universes, each with its own unique timeline and outcome. These universes were not mere echoes of their own but vibrant, thriving realities, each with its own distinct characteristics and inhabitants. Some of these universes were peaceful utopias, where humanity had achieved harmony with nature and technology. Others were dystopian landscapes, scarred by conflict and environmental degradation. Each universe offered a different perspective on the choices that shaped the course of history. Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne marveled at the sheer diversity of possibilities, realizing that the potential outcomes of even the smallest actions were nearly infinite. They understood that the singularity point was not just a place of convergence but also a crucible of creation, where the seeds of new realities were sown. They felt a profound sense of awe and responsibility, knowing that their presence here could have far-reaching consequences for the multiverse. As they continued to manipulate the lattice, they experimented with different scenarios, each time observing the ripple effects on the emerging universes. They introduced variables that altered the course of pivotal historical events, such as the outcome of wars, the discovery of new technologies, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Each change led to a cascade of new possibilities, branching out into countless parallel timelines. One of the most striking experiments involved altering the course of a global pandemic that had ravaged Earth in their own universe. By introducing a slight variation in the timeline, they witnessed the emergence of a universe where the pandemic was contained early, leading to a rapid recovery and accelerated advancements in medical science. In this universe, humanity had developed a deep appreciation for global cooperation and sustainability, creating a world where innovation and compassion went hand in hand. Another experiment involved a shift in political leadership during a critical juncture in history. In one universe, a visionary leader emerged, steering the world toward peace and prosperity. In another, a more authoritarian regime took power, leading to a dystopian society marked by oppression and surveillance. These divergent outcomes underscored the delicate balance of power and the profound impact of individual choices on the trajectory of entire civilizations. As they explored these new universes, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne began to realize the ethical implications of their actions. They understood that while the power to shape reality was intoxicating, it came with a heavy burden of responsibility. They had the ability to create worlds of unimaginable beauty and potential, but they also risked undoing the delicate balance that maintained the stability of the multiverse. The architect, ever watchful, appeared before them once more. "You have glimpsed the infinite possibilities that lie within the lattice," the architect said. "But remember, every choice has consequences. The balance of the multiverse depends on the careful stewardship of this power. Do not wield it lightly." Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of their task. They knew that their journey had not only been one of discovery but also one of responsibility. They had the power to create new realities, but they also had the duty to ensure that these realities were sustainable and beneficial for all. With a deep breath, they made their final adjustments to the QRT, ensuring that the changes they had introduced were stable and harmonious. They observed the lattice settle into a new equilibrium, with the newly created universes coexisting peacefully alongside their own. They felt a profound sense of satisfaction, knowing that they had not only unlocked the secrets of the quantum lattice but also contributed to the greater good of the multiverse. As they prepared to return to their own universe, Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne reflected on their journey. They had transcended the boundaries of reality, explored the depths of the quantum lattice, and witnessed the infinite possibilities that lay within. They had faced challenges and made difficult choices, but they had emerged stronger and wiser. Their adventure was not over, however. The quantum lattice held countless more mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and they knew that their quest for knowledge and understanding was far from finished. But for now, they returned to their world, carrying with them the lessons and experiences of their journey. And so, the story of the Singularity Awakening comes to a close, a tale of discovery, courage, and the boundless potential of the human spirit. Will Dr. Miles and Professor Thorne continue their exploration of the quantum lattice? What new worlds will they discover? What truths will they uncover? Only time and the journey itself will tell. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Stay tuned for more adventures as we continue to explore the wonders of the quantum lattice. Don't forget to subscribe for updates and be part of this extraordinary adventure.